So, it's happening. Hey guys, it's Emily, and today I'm going to be reading and reviewing Cold Hearted by Serena Valentino. So this is the newest book in the Villain series, and if you guys haven't seen my other videos where I read and review the rest of the series, I'll link them in the description box down below as well as in the cards up above. But it is by far one of the most requested videos on my channel. Ever since it was announced that there was going to be an 8th book in the Villain series, I've gotten so many comments asking me if I was going to read it and review it, and the answer to that question is yes, obviously, because you're getting this video. So I'll be honest, I'm diving into this one with pretty mixed expectations. I didn't love the last book, which was Evil Thing. I had very mixed feelings about it. I didn't enjoy it as much as the rest of the series, and so I'm a little bit hesitant diving into this one. One of my biggest qualms about Evil Thing was that it was a standalone. It didn't connect with the rest of the series, but I have been told that this one does, and that it connects with like the Odd Sisters and the other characters that we have seen throughout the rest of the series. So I'm hopeful that I will enjoy this one more than I did Evil Thing, but you never know. I'm quite excited that this is a Cinderella retelling, because I feel like all of the Cinderella retellings that I've seen or read were all focused on Cinderella herself, whereas this one really focuses on Lady Tremaine. It is all about this character, because all of the books in the Villain series focused on the villain that we see in our favorite fairy tales, I guess. I haven't seen a lot of stories that focus on Lady Tremaine. I feel like she's kind of a forgotten villain. Whenever we think of the big bad Disney villains, we think about Maleficent, Ursula, Scar, all of those like big bad villains, but Lady Tremaine kind of gets forgotten. I'm excited to see what Serena Valentino has in store with this one. It is quite short. I was flipping through it just because I was curious, and it is under 300 pages, so I am curious to see how this will play out. And yeah, I guess we're gonna start reading. Let's do this. Alright, so time for a reading update. I'm not super far into the book. I'm currently on page 38, but I already have a good feeling about this one. I think I might enjoy it because already we're connected back to the Odd Sisters, so we're brought back to the storyline like where we left things off in the last book, well, before Evil Thing. So it's interesting how everything interconnects, because even Cruella was mentioned, but we know that she's a separate story. Anyway, I just thought the writing was really interesting. I have high hopes. I feel like I might like this one. I don't really know what I'm gonna think about the story itself, but I have a good feeling about it. Like, I feel like I'm not gonna be disappointed because it does in fact connect to the Odd Sisters and like all of that storyline. It's also very interesting to read about so far because Lady Tremaine is a good person, meaning that she has not become the villain that we know her as yet. I'm curious to see what will happen to her and what will cause her to become the villain. So far, no mentions of Cinderella except for like the present timeline. So basically what happens is that the story kicks off and we're in like the present timeline. I think a chapter later we're brought back to the beginning of Lady Tremaine's story. So this is like even before like Cinderella was brought to her household, I guess. So we're going like way far back. Like Anastasia and Drusilla are really young. I think they're like 12. Yeah, so far I'm interested. I'm curious to see where things will go from here. One thing that I thought was kind of interesting once again is that the fairies are kind of the villains in this. They're not villains, but they're not good people either. I think the fairies in Disney stories are always seen as like pure and like good energy and like good magic, and they're really good. Like, we know they help the princesses and everything, but I love how Serena Valentino has shown us that the fairies are not always good. It's not the first book in which this discussion happens, but I'm reminded that I like this about it. Everything is not as black and white as it seems, especially with the fairies. So I don't know, I'm intrigued to see how everything will play out. I feel like there's good ground and I don't know, the bases are established. I'm just excited to see what Serena Valentino will do with them. But yeah, so far I have high hopes and I really hope that this will live up to my expectations, but I guess we have to continue reading to see. have been making my way through Cold Hearted, and I have a reading update for you guys. So I'm currently on page 156, which means that I'm a little bit over halfway through this book. And so I thought that I would share my thoughts with you guys. I'll be honest, as far as the plot goes, I feel like everything is super rushed. Lady Tremaine meets Sir Richard, who's like Cinderella's father, and suddenly like they get engaged, then they get married, and everything happens like over the course of a week, and it's like very odd. Like the pacing is super weird. But what I thought was interesting is that even Lady Tremaine herself acknowledges it. Like at some point, I think like maybe a couple of pages ago, she said something's feeling a little bit weird about all of this. Like she wanted to flee. I wasn't expecting that. Something is off about Sir Richard and like Cinderella and like the characters from the fairy tale that we know. So yeah, there's something off about them. I don't know what it is. I'm excited to see. I have a feeling it might be the Odd Sisters. Like I feel like they will have meddled in some way, and this is why it's feeling so weird. I don't really know what it is. I'm excited to continue reading so that I can figure out what's wrong. Also, I wanted to talk about the setting of this real quick because early on in the book, they mentioned that Lady Tremaine comes from London. So she comes from our world, which is also Cruella's world if you read Evil Thing. And so she will actually move to the Many Kingdoms, which is the world where most of the stories from the rest of the series are set. And then she hears about Belle, and we talk about like Morningstar and even like Gothel, Rapunzel. Like we talk about the other characters, and like Lady Tremaine and like her daughters, like Anastasia and Drizella, they are like new to this world, so it's their first encounter with the Many Kingdoms and like the fairy tales. And it's so interesting. Like I love the view that we have on the Many Kingdoms because it comes from an outsider, and so it's not like the characters themselves grew up in this world like the rest of the series. So I don't know, there's something very different about this one that I really like, and I'm excited to see where things will go from here. Now where I'm at, Lady Tremaine and her daughters have just arrived to the Many Kingdoms for the wedding. So I'm guessing that the second half of the book will focus mostly on like the Cinderella story that we all know, and also how she became the evil stepmother that we know, as well as how this connects to the rest of the story, because so far it's like kind of a flashback situation where like the beginning of the book, like the first chapter was about the characters from the rest of the series, and then the rest has been about Lady Tremaine's story. So I'm guessing that like towards the end of the book we'll see how it connects with the rest of the series. But so far I see there's a connection, and there's even mentions of other characters that we've encountered in the series, but we don't know how it connects with like the story that we've grown accustomed to in the rest of the series. So I'm excited to continue this. I don't have a lot left to read, so I'm guessing I'm gonna get the answers to all of my questions soon, hopefully. And I guess I'll update you guys when I have read a little bit more of this. I've done it. I finished reading Cold Hearted by Serena Valentino, and I have some thoughts. First, let me just recap the second half of the book and like my thoughts on that part of the book. So I was right. We got all of the answers that I was looking for in the second half of the book. It covered mostly the Cinderella story that we know, as well as the connection between Lady Tremaine's story and the Odd Sisters. So I thought that was really well done, but at the same time, I do feel like the connection was kind of weak. I get that the fairies are the biggest link between Lady Tremaine and the rest of the series, but I kind of wish that the Odd Sisters had played a bigger part in Lady Tremaine's unraveling, I guess. And that is why I found the ending to be a little bit unsatisfying. I wish we had spent more time with the characters. I just feel like the shift from Lady Tremaine being a nice person to her becoming a villain was kind of abrupt, and it happened too quickly. I understood her motivations and I understood what drove her to that point, but I felt like Serena Valentino could have spent more time in the transitioning, because I just feel like one moment she was nice and next thing you know she's a bad person. So I wish that had been more explained, or that we had spent more time seeing her transform slowly over time, because the way it happened in the book, it just happened very quickly in my opinion. The pacing felt rushed in the second half of the book compared to the first half, because we spent so much time explaining Lady Tremaine's story that when the Cinderella part happened, we really go over it. We gloss over that part, because that happens quite often with Serena Valentino's books. She spends a lot of time on the backstory, and then when the part of the movie like that we know, she kind of glosses over it because we're already familiar with it, and I get that. But at the same time, I think it would have been interesting to see it from Lady Tremaine's perspective. So yeah, I liked it, but I do wish that the pacing had been a little bit more balanced, because we did spend a lot of time in the past and not so much time in the present. So I kind of wish that we had spent more time seeing Lady Tremaine becoming the villain, because as I see it, she was a good person and then something happened and she shifted into a villain. Also, I want to say that Lady Tremaine is not the actual villain of this story. It's Sir Richard. So both Cinderella and her father were not really nice people. I think they're not as good as they seem, and I like that Serena Valentino went there. Cinderella, when she was a kid, was kind of a brat, to be honest, and it's kind of understandable given the fact that she was raised up to be like her father's little princess, so he would never say no to her. It would give her the world, basically, and Cinderella would just take it. So when Lady Tremaine arrives, she acts like a little brat that she is, because I mean her father raised her that way. But then her father, Sir Richard, is the actual villain of this story, and like I'm not gonna take any comments on that. Like, he is the worst person that I've ever read about. I'm like, oh my fucking god, like I'm not kidding. I was almost flabbergasted by some of the comments that he made, and he was an asshole, deserved to die. He had it coming, and it's not a spoiler because in Cinderella her father dies and that's why she is stuck with Lady Tremaine, basically. But yeah, he had it coming, and I was rooting for him to die because he was such a bad person. So yeah, I did not like him at all, and I really hoped that he would die, and I was really happy when it happened. So overall, I really enjoyed this book. It's probably one of my favorite books in the series so far. I'm giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. I am surprised by how much I liked it, and that might be because my expectations were kind of low when I started, but wow, this was really good. Like, I really enjoyed it. I love seeing Lady Tremaine's story, and I loved what Serena Valentino did with it. I loved the writing, I loved the world building. I just loved everything about it. The one reason why I'm not giving it a 5 out of 5 stars is because, like I said, I had issues with the pacing, and some things happened way too quickly, and then some things were just glossed over that I wish we could have spent more time with. Like, this book could have been a little bit longer, and it's rare that I say things like that, but this one could have been a little bit longer. I think there was missing something towards the end to wrap it up, like to make it even better, to raise it to the next level. And so yeah, but I did really like it, and I liked what Serena Valentino did with it, and I would totally recommend it. If you guys haven't read it yet, go pick it up. It's really great, and I cannot recommend it enough. So I guess that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you read Cold Hearted, what you thought in the comments down below. No spoilers, please. And I guess that's it, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!